All right, this is my third attempt at making a walkthrough video. It's cold, so I'm kind of making mistakes. So I'm gonna just try to get through it this time. Bear with me. All right, this is, first of all, work on a, I can't know if you guys see it, but 2007 Volkswagen GTI MK5. And we're removing the struts, front struts in this video. So yeah. I will be replacing them with coilovers that I bought from ECS Tuning, right here. By no means is this video associated with them. This is just me doing my job and putting it out there for anybody to see. But that being said, this is a really great set. I will definitely do some more videos on handling, but it comes with everything. I'm sorry I don't have it all spread out. I'll put a picture on here later. But it comes with everything. Every bolt you could use, all axle bolts, anything. Every bolt you're going to take off, they have replacement for it, including mounts, everything. So the coilovers will just be able to go on nice and easy once you get the old ones off. All right, so this is what we're removing, obviously. And these are the tools I needed. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. If you're going to be doing this job, you should have them. Except for the fact, excuse me, there's a spindle nut spreader tool. I got this from Schwaben, along with the ECS coils from ECS Tuning. You can get those through them. And you're going to need, for installation purposes, a strut socket. I forget the size. I'll have that in a different video. But yeah, the only thing that's really out of the ordinary is going to be that spindle spreader. All right, so when you first start, you're going to obviously get the car on level surface, get it on jack stands, make sure it's nice and sturdy. First thing you're going to do is obviously remove the wheel. Then you're going to remove, there's a 10mm bolt that holds the bracket for your brake lines and ABS and all that stuff. Be sure to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure on them. See, I got wiggle room here. That means, they're not getting stretched out. I mean, I could be doing a little bit better, but I'm just trying to get this job done. So hopefully everything goes okay. So it's kind of a do as I say, not as I do in some cases, but that's proper installation suggestion for you. So yeah, you're going to take off the axle nut. I think it's a 1 1/16 or something like that. I'm not really sure. But I used a impact gun. You're going to want to use an impact if you can. You can probably get it done with a breaker bar or something, but you're going to need somebody to step on the brakes, obviously. And then once you get the axle nut out, once you take this 10mm bracket bolt out, you're going to get everything out of the way. Then you're going to go underneath to the ball joint. There's 3 16mm bolts that hold the ball joint to the the A-arm or control arm. Then after you separate those or take off those 3 bolts, you're going to separate the ball joint from the control arm with, some kind of pry bar, screwdriver, whatever. And then when you get that, you're going to pull out on this side, and then you can get the axle out. When the strut's here, you get it out of the way. But you're going to also want to make sure you can get the pinch bolt out that goes right in here. That's this bad boy here. As you can see, it's a 14mm triple square. That's another tool you're going to need if you don't have it. It goes in like that. Mine was very rusty. I don't know if these ever were changed before. So they did now. So I had a little bit of problems with doing some of the stuff on this. I'll get to that in a little bit. But, on the site, on ECS Tuning, they do have an installation procedure laid out. In their installation, they told me to get the axle out of the way first. What I decided to do after I did the first one was I heated the nut side of the pinch bolt, just with a little torch, nothing crazy, just a little propane can with you know, one of these jammies, you know, propane with a torch on the end of it, because it's cold out. Before I got the axle in the way, that way I could break it easily and, you know, whatever. Oh, I forgot to mention it because I did this before, but you're going to have to disconnect your sway bar link. I had already done that, so I'm sorry I forgot to mention it. I forget the sizing on that, but it's pretty much cut and dry. You're going to need, you know, whatever millimeter socket it is, and chances are you're going to need a pair of vice grips, because those, where are they? Let's see. Right here. These always strip out. So I actually got one of them out, but I had to, right here, use a pair of vice grips nice and tight so I can get them all off. You know, so just remove these and remove the nut there and the axle nut there. On the other side, there's going to be a leveling system if your car has it for the headlights. Here, I'll show you. And you're going to also need to remove that. You know, same process on this side, but you're just going to have to disconnect this thing. I don't know if you can see it. There's a bracket. It's the self-leveler. It's a little arm that goes up and down with the axles. If you can see that. All right. It's going to go back to this side with more light. So after you disconnect that, like I said, pull out the axle and get this thing started supported with a little jack. And I had an extra jack that's used on the other side right now, so I can't show it to you. And that's when you're going to use the spreader tool after you hang this out of the way and heat up that bolt. You know, I definitely recommend heating that bolt up, or you're going to have some serious problems. It was tough, unless you live in a nice state where you don't get any rust. You know, get this hung up onto the strut tower, or not strut tower, but the strut. You know, I had it hanging from a spring. And then you're going to use the spindle tool to spread this apart. It's not, for me, it didn't go off the first time. Like I said, I don't really know how long those struts were on this car. It was a pain. But once you bang the knuckle down, you'll have the strut kind of just dangling there, and it's going to be held up by those 3 bolts up in there. Those, I believe, are 1/2 inch. And that's keeping this strut mount in place. Now, the problem I had taking these off was this. You see how there's a hole there? One of the bolts was just spinning. These 2 came off pretty easy. I mean, you know, but this one started spinning in place. So I actually had to get a helper to, while I grabbed it this side, excuse me, with a pair of vice grips. I mean, you cannot get in there. I even took the strut out. I let it pop right off. I took the axle nut off, and to just get some better access to this. Hopefully you don't have to do that. Hopefully this will just come out when you disconnect the 3 bolts. But if you do have that problem, you're going to have to disconnect the axle, and watch out, because it's under a lot of pressure from that spring, and it's going to, bam, it's going to spring right out at you. So be very careful when you're undoing that top nut if you have to. But hopefully you don't have to, and these 3 bolts come out just fine and easy.